This is the Ben Simmons video. This is the Kyrie Irving video. This is a combination Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving video. What's up, clowns? My name is Emma. This is my show. It's called The Shot Circus. It's about basketball. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get started, shall we? So it wouldn't be the start of the NBA season without your fair share of drama. And this year came with a vengeance thanks to Mercury being in Gatorade. I mean, where do we even begin? I guess we should start with Mr. Ben Simmons, who was playing for the 76ers, and then he wasn't. And then he was, and then he wasn't. So what's going on there? I think we should unpack this. I mean, I don't know Ben Simmons, or anybody who does know Ben Simmons, or anybody who could potentially know anything about what actually Ben Simmons is thinking. But why not? Why don't I just give my opinion? I think there's a lot of people that should be blamed for the Ben Simmons situation. And I think Ben Simmons deserves the majority of the blame, but I don't think it's entirely his fault. The 76ers as an organization definitely need to be held responsible for putting themselves in this situation. Primarily for not seeing, like 2 seasons ago, that the Ben Simmons-Joel Embiid fit was not working, and still continuing to build around this duo, specifically making roster changes around Ben Simmons, who was a player who never showed a commitment to improving. I think the biggest mistake that they made, and I may be biased as a Heat fan, was letting go of Jimmy Butler. Because, you know, maybe the fit wasn't, maybe there was some chemistry issues going on there. But the Sixers were at their best with the Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, Joel, Ben, and was it Al Horford? They were at their best, and the only reason they didn't make the finals and potentially win the finals, which they probably would have done, was because of a 3-bounce shot. So any team in their right mind would have been like, let's run it back. But because of the Simmons and Butler problem, they were not able to do that. Now, I just have one quick thing to say, and that is every tongue that rises against Jimmy Butler shall fall. Because he's been right. He's been right about everything. He was right about Wiggins. He was right about Ben Simmons. He was right about the Chicago Bulls. He's just been right. Anyway, what they should have done is been like, we have a really special player in Jimmy Butler, and we have 2 all-stars in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. We need to make this work. We need to have Jimmy and Ben sit down and talk it out. We need to have a meeting with our coaching staff and see how we can make these pieces fit together so that we can run it back next year. And maybe, hey, taking some of the criticism from Jimmy about who's doing the ball handling in the postseason and the preseason, not preseason, the postseason and the regular season. That's something that people had been saying for a while, and it wasn't just Jimmy Butler, and it wasn't just him being a locker room cancer. It was feelings that people were having of like, we need to solidify who Ben Simmons is on our team, because can he really be a point guard, or is he going to be like a wing and we need somebody else to be running the offense? Instead of trying to make it work, instead of taking a good look at Ben Simmons' flaws as a player and asking him to fix it, and then asking how the team as a whole can work around those flaws, they just let go of Jimmy Butler for Josh Richardson. So the front office, what they've been doing up to like whatever happened with the Hawks series, bad. They should have traded him for James Harden if that was an option. Or they should have even taken the Malcolm Brogdon trade, but I'll get into that in a minute. So that was bad. Bad decision making. The coaching staff, from Brett Brown to Doc Rivers. I mean, when Doc Rivers first started on this team, one of the first things he said was that he doesn't need to fix Ben's jump shot. Are you nuts? Are you insane? What's wrong with you? How could you say that? How could you, as a coach, and a coach who's been in the league for as long as Doc Rivers has been, a championship coach, look at Ben Simmons and say, nope, he doesn't need to improve on his jump shot? Are you fucking kidding me? Is this a joke? We could look at a player like Giannis, who's not a great shooter, but is not afraid to shoot when the time is right, when the moment calls for it. And his lack of fear when it comes to shooting just bleeds into his lack of fear when it comes to scoring in general, right? Because he's not afraid to miss. He's not afraid to get fouled and then have to go to the line. Even though he knows that these are not necessarily his strong suits, there's a level of confidence there that just all around allows him to be a great player. And the fact that the coaching staff, from when Doc Rivers joined to even before, never literally were like, we need to hire some specialists to help Ben work on his jump shot. And I don't know if that was because the organization as a whole didn't think that that was necessary, or because Ben didn't really want to and then they just went with it. I don't know. It's bad. They should have taken the Brogdon trade. I think it was good value for what you were getting. I think it's probably the best trade you're going to get up to this point, because his trade value with every little outburst that he does is just getting lower and lower and lower. And I think yesterday, Daryl Morey was like, oh, buckle in, we're going to be here for a while. We better not be, because if you wait like one more month, what you're going to get back in return for Ben Simmons is like Kelly Olynyk and a first-round pick. Actually, like, you need to be the ones who are going out and saying, like, we have this player, not just waiting for somebody to be like, oh yeah, I'll trade you LeBron. That's not going to happen. Not at this point. But now with the Sixers, what we have is a combination of like, we are questioning Ben Simmons as a teammate, as a player, and as a scorer. And on top of all that, we know that he wants out. Everybody knows he wants out. What's the holdup? Daryl, what's the fucking holdup? Now let's get to Ben Simmons. The only person who can fix Ben Simmons is Ben Simmons. The only person who can go out and get Ben Simmons a jump shot is Ben Simmons. Because if he doesn't want to do those things, he won't do that. Nobody can force him to, right? At this point, it would be beneficial for him to play for the organization, to show up, to play a few games, to reestablish his value. The last time we saw Ben Simmons play basketball, he looked scared. He looked weak. He did not look like an all-star, so it would be in his best interest to play a couple games with Philly, really show him, silence the fans, show everybody who all-star Ben Simmons is, and then raise his own trade value so he doesn't end up getting traded to like Oklahoma City or freaking San Antonio, okay? That would be in his best interest. I think this is a problem of this kind of new era of basketball players where college/pre-draft really good players are getting all this attention from the media and from organizations, and they get sponsorships and they have tons of social media followers, and so they just think they are like the next best thing. They are going to change the league, and then they get to the league and things are different. And what I think the problem is that not only is Ben Simmons surrounded with yes men probably in his personal life, unfortunately his organization is also filled with yes men who, instead of trying to develop him and give him constructive criticism, are just going to literally reverse the turn of the world in order to build around his deficiencies, which can only take you so far, and creates a player who's not willing to adapt and instead just expects everybody else to just fix themselves before he looks internally to fix his own issues. Am I a therapist? And if I were Ben Simmons, which I'm obviously not, I would be like, oh, I am so lucky to be able to play with a player like Joel Embiid in a place like Philadelphia. Let me try my best to fix my issues or develop myself or refine my talent set in such a way that we can work really well together. This is where we have to get back to this kind of prodigy issue, because it's evident that he doesn't have the drive within himself to improve himself. Because even if you're surrounded by yes men, you should be able to look at film of yourself, look at past games, look at your box score, look at your stats, look at everything and be like, hey, this is actually something that I'm deficient on. I myself, as an NBA player who's getting paid however many millions of dollars, I'm going to take my own incentive to try to improve on this skill so that when it comes time for the next season, I can be better. It's just bad. It is bad. Ben Simmons needs to go. He's acting like a baby. Joel Embiid deserves better. So that's that. Okay, warning everybody, I'm about to get political. I'm going to talk about vaccines. If this is something that you can't handle and you can't, talk about like an adult and like whatever, turn the video off. Just go watch something else. I don't care. So now we have to get to Kyrie. We have to talk about Kyrie, right? Because he's giving a voice to the voiceless. Oh man. I just want to establish something that pre this whole vaccine thing, I actually defended Kyrie. I just think that it's important to keep in mind that it is sometimes necessary to take a step back from the career you're doing, and that's whether you're an NBA All-Star or you're a cashier. I do think that is very important, and that's something that I defended Kyrie for. I thought that people were overreacting when it came to his time off. NBA players do not really owe us anything. Of course, yeah, I just made a video about, or I just talked about Ben Simmons and kind of what he's done to the Sixers. But I also think that, we do as enjoyers of a basketball game start to develop these parasocial relationships with the players and think that we know them, and and we think, hey, you're getting paid X amount of money, you owe me to come out to just entertain me constantly. And that's not necessarily the truth. This is where the tables kind of turn for me with Kyrie, is this anti-vax thing. Or he says he's not anti-vax, he's just doing it as like a political statement. I don't know. And I think it's important to talk about this, not just in relationship to Kyrie, but other players who have come out as anti-vax or are not getting the vaccine for one reason or another. Bradley Beal, Michael Porter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, I think. So let's just get the kind of politics of it out of the way, of this giving a voice to the voiceless. I don't think Kyrie's a dumb person. I think he's smart. I just don't understand where this is coming from, because if you wanted to give a voice to the voiceless, you wouldn't be giving a voice to kind of this anti-vax contingency that is already being given plenty of a voice by people like Joe Rogan and Ted Cruz and Donald Trump Jr. I mean, there's a whole contingent, there's a whole Fox News, there's a whole establishment built around these people who are anti-vaxxers, and it's no coincidence that people who are anti-vaccine also tend to be people who are conservative and lean towards white supremacy. And then it's the same people who are telling LeBron to shut up and dribble who are now praising Kyrie for not getting the vaccine. And I think if you really wanted to give a voice to the voiceless, you wouldn't be talking about American anti-vaxxers. You'd be talking about different countries in the global south, underdeveloped countries like Peru, like Haiti, like other countries where COVID is still ravaging people. Now moving on from that. Even within America, I think it's incredibly dangerous for NBA players or, anybody, just generally just wealthy people, but specifically NBA players to be saying these kinds of things. Because number one, they have a large platform. They're very large. People do care what Kyrie says. People do care what Bradley Beal says. And the difference between Bradley Beal and Kyrie Irving and the people that watch them is an income difference, right? And so if Bradley Beal gets coronavirus, if Kyrie Irving gets coronavirus, he has a whole medical staff of people who are ready and willing to treat him. There's no situation in which Kyrie Irving does not have access to an ICU bed, does not have access to oxygen, does not have access to the tip-top treatment that could be provided to somebody from COVID. However, many of the people that watch basketball, that consume basketball media, are not in that same boat. And so if they don't get vaccinated and they get COVID, they could probably run into a situation where they go to a hospital in the inner city or a public hospital that doesn't have enough doctors, that doesn't have enough oxygen, just doesn't have enough treatment, and then they die. And even we saw with Karl Anthony Towns, even with the tip-top medical treatment, you can still really get knocked out by this virus. That's basically what I have to say about Kyrie, but I also have a couple of comments about the NBA as a whole, right? And different players' reactions, different vaccinated players' reactions to the statements of unvaccinated players or players who are choosing not to get the vaccine. And there's been a lot of talking about, it's a personal choice, it's your body, your choice, which is not a slogan that was actually invented to talk about vaccines. It's actually about reproductive justice, but that's neither here nor there. But that's something that I think Shaq and Charles really smartly discussed on the NBA, inside the NBA yesterday, which is it's you don't get the vaccine for you. I mean, you hypothetically get it for you because you don't want to die from COVID or lose your sense of smell and taste or have decreased lung function. There was a bug in my eye. You do it for other people. You do it for people who can't get the vaccine. So when you have an infectious disease, a disease that is transmitted from people to people, it's not about you. It's not your body anymore. It's everybody's body. It's our society as a whole. Okay, I'm gonna calm down. I'm going to calm down now. Lastly, what I want to get to is this question of whether or not NBA players should be asked to speak about these things. And I think that the answer is complicated because to a certain extent, I mean, not really, I guess. It's your private life. You could decide to do whatever you want with it. But it also, you did sign up for a job where you were going to be a admired, respected, famous, well-known athlete. And when you're a person who becomes a public figure in that sense, then you're asked about things that impact the public. And that's the same for all athletes, for actors, for musicians, for anybody who is in the public spotlight. They get asked these kinds of things. And whether or not that's fair, maybe it isn't, right? I can't really speak to it because I'm not in that position. Maybe it's not fair, but it's happening. And I think that it's the job of not just NBA players, but any public figures asked about this to really consider how what they say is going to impact the general public, how big their influence is, and how this can impact people's lives and people's health, right? Yeah, that's the video. I mean, I really hope that soon this can all die down, that Kyrie can play with the Nets again, because that would be really incredible. And I hope that Ben Simmons is traded to a team where he can be successful and that the Sixers get good value out of him. I want to start, talking just about sports again and what's going on in the business side of sports, but things like this happen. I think it's important that they be addressed. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my videos about my predictions for the Eastern and Western Conference. And I will also be uploading a video Monday about the NBA games I've seen so far and what I think about the beginning of the season. So stay tuned for that and be good. Bye, guys.